let's have a look inside of those software components. Of course, we need some code and we need to execute that code somewhere. And this is typically done in the form of runnables. Runnables or runnable entities are part of your software component, part of the stuff that you define when designing your software component. How do they work? Well, in their simplest form, there are just functions, typically void void. There are some exceptions, we'll get to those later. Typically void void functions which are executed according to specific rules that you can configure in your tool. And inside of those runnables, you can now simply insert your code. You have, for example, here a runnable that's triggered every 200 milliseconds. So every 200 milliseconds, the RTE makes sure that this runnable will be executed. And here we have some interactions, like, for example, we write to a port, we maybe declare some variables, and so on and so forth. So this runnable, for example, would now write data most likely to this port, which goes somewhere else. And the decision when a runnable is supposed to be executed is made in the form of triggers. And how do those triggers work? What kinds of triggers do we have? We will later go a little bit more into detail, but to give you some examples here, let's have a look at a simple system. We have 3 software components, each with some runnables inside. Here we have a single runnable, here we have 2 runnables. And what kind of triggers can we define? Well, for example, we can define an init trigger, a start trigger. In this case, this runnable will be executed only once at system startup. Very nice for initialization. But we can define also other triggers, for example, a cyclic trigger. So this runnable will be executed once every 20 milliseconds. You don't need to worry about how this is done. The RTE is doing this for you. You just need to be interested in what the code does inside. And let's say, for example, this writes to this port every 20 milliseconds. Data is transported here. And here we have now one runnable that's not executed periodically. It's not executed at start, but instead it's executed on data reception. So whenever somebody writes to this port, this runnable is being executed. So this is more of an event-based approach in this case here. And all those runnables are running in the context of operating system tasks. Operating system tasks are simply functions, tasks managed by the AUTOSAR operating system. Much more on that in the first chapter of the practical part. So in the next chapter, the OS.